For over 40 years, he has been the most recognized voice in the history of pro wrestling. And the man with the stories that are too hot for TV. Now, he's bringing that signature voice to the podcast world, along with some of the biggest names in the business. Welcome to The Hotline with Mean Gene Okerlund. Now, here's WWE Hall of Famer and your dear close personal friend, Mean Gene Okerlund.
Welcome, fans, to yet another edition of The Hotline with Mean Gene Okerlund. It's too hot for TV, Gene. We're here in Orlando, Florida, getting ready to, just have some shenanigans, of course, as always.
Well, of course, and we could heat Orlando up a little bit. The Royal Rumble took place and shook that place up pretty good. But still could use a little warm weather for the tourists coming down from the hinterlands.
Yeah, the hinterlands.
The hinterland, from the tundra.
Not to be confused with the Netherlands Antilles. You know, Andre the
Certainly
Giant.
not to be confused.
Well, Gene, let's, obviously this is The Hotline. It's your podcast, and we've got great feedback on the first couple of episodes that we've done. Many more episodes to come. But, Gene, there's a lot going on in the wrestling business right now, and I'd love to hear your take, as well as the fans hearing your take on the big news, which is John Cena. He's got a shoulder injury. Looks like he's not going to be a part of WrestleMania. John Cena, nearing 40 years old, starting to get that injury bug a little bit. He's been out for a couple of times over the last few years.
But he's worked hurt.
Yeah.
I want to make that perfectly clear, because John Cena has put the weight of the company on his shoulders and gone to the ring when he probably should have been sitting in a rocking chair someplace and healing.
Already in a rocking
He's going to be sorely missed, I will say that, because John Cena has kind of been the face of the company for the last 10 years.
Yeah. But here's a question. John Cena's, as you said, the face of the company for the last 10 years. How do they build a WrestleMania without the face of the company?
Well, that's very difficult to do, but WrestleMania has become, I think, kind of an event in itself.
Yeah.
And so many people participate. And, of course, the Hall of Fame prior to that. I want to talk a little bit about that, too, a little later.
Yes, absolutely.
But WrestleMania just is a giant of the WWE pay-per-views during the course of a year.
Yeah.
And there's always so much happening, not just the main event, but all of the events and matches that are on the undercard. Our main events usually in any city, anywhere in the world.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. You've been a part of nearly every WrestleMania. Have they ever had to build one or produce one without the main star being a part of it?
Well, we've had a lot of guys, that have worked hurt at WrestleMania because of the event.
Right.
And I think case in point would be Andre the Giant.
Okay.
Andre the Giant had back surgery prior to WrestleMania 3
Okay.
at the Pontiac Silverdome when he met Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
He was in such tough shape that he could not walk to the ring.
Really?
So they had kind of a tractor or kind of a little...
The little ring carts.
Carts.
Is that
yeah.
where they had those?
That's where they had him.
Wow.
And took Andre up to the ring, and he stayed in there for 17 great minutes with Hulk Hogan and did what he was asked to do.
That match was that long? Was it 17 minutes?
17 it seemed like, but there was a lot of prelim there,
Yeah.
if you'll recall. Get Bobby Heenan involved, and it's going to take time.
Yeah. Well, now, and people say about that match that nobody really knew if Andre was going to do what, as you just said, what he had to do. Nobody really knew if he was going to do the I guess you say the job, even though it was so much more than that he was going to take the pinfall from Hulk Hogan. Is that true?
Well, I think there was some question about it prior to the event itself, but the boss, as they call him,
Yeah.
has really kind of always done as he's been told and accommodates the office. There are times when he hasn't, and those are well documented, but Andre was a company man, and Vince Sr. and Vince Jr. took very good care of the man for all those years.
Yeah.
And he was such a big part of the franchise.
Now, you speak of WrestleMania 3, and part of this is obviously we're now on the road to WrestleMania, as they say, coming up in Dallas at AT&T Stadium on April 3rd. You stood in the middle of the ring at WrestleMania 3, and you told the world that a brand new indoor attendance record had been set. 93,173 people.
Correct.
What was that feeling like just standing there in that sea of humanity at the Silverdome and making that announcement?
Damien, it would take your breath away.
Yeah.
It was that exciting, that thrilling for me, because you could look out in all directions and nothing but a sea of fans. Mm-hmm. Now, you've got to remember, these guys tailgated out front of the Silverdome for 3, 4, 5 hours prior to the event. So by the time the Hulk Hogan-Andre match came up, they were pretty well wrung out. But they still showed such great enthusiasm. And the boss did deliver. So did Hogan.
Yeah.
They put on a great show. Mm-hmm. And I think the event speaks for itself. But I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see Dallas eclipse that number. I
Even
would not.
without Cena?
Even without Cena.
So who takes Cena's place? Who is the face that they build WrestleMania around? We don't know what the main event's going to be at Mania because as of this recording, the Royal Rumble hasn't happened yet. But you got to think that names such as a Brock Lesnar or Roman Reigns, we know The Rock's going to be involved at WrestleMania. Whether or not he's going to wrestle, we don't know. But you also got to assume Triple H is going to be a part of WrestleMania in a wrestling capacity.
And it wouldn't surprise me to see Stone Cold Steve Austin kind of hovering around. He's got a podcast going.
Yeah.
Steve, I know you listen to this one regularly, but that's okay. We don't mind.
We got to have him on sometime.
Yeah, of course he should.
But
Dallas may be the place.
I think so.
Yeah, that's his fate.
But who's that one man? Is it Roman Reigns, do you think?
I can speculate, I guess, until the cows go home at night, as they say on the farm.
Yeah.
Which I have not been at for a long time. But I think there's any number of people that are starting to kind of rise to the occasion. Mm-hmm. Those are going to be huge boots to have to fill.
Yeah.
The fan base that John Cena has, and I mean, some people love him, some people hate him, but they all know him.
Right.
Which is very important. And that's, I think, what this individual has to be. He's got to be a known commodity. And probably out of this is going to rise a whole new superstar. Mm-hmm. Maybe another John Cena.
Yeah. So it really is, it's an opportunity for the rest of the roster.
I think you've got to look at it as more than a match, but as an opportunity to become the next golden boy.
Mm-hmm. Now, you talk about Dallas having a chance to eclipse the 93,000.
It has the capacity to.
The capacity to.
Right.
Isn't the brand WrestleMania, is that enough to do it, or do you need that marquee money matchup, if you will?
Well, I think you need both. Mm-hmm. It would be great to have the marquee matchup. If Cena is not available, and I don't know for sure if he has been crossed off the list, mm-hmm. but it doesn't look good right now.
Yeah.
He has sustained so many injuries, some of them severe, mm-hmm. over the years. How much longer can you pound that body?
Well, you know what's interesting? John Cena is almost a bit of a Superman, if you will. I think it was 2007, 2008-ish or so when he had a spine issue or a neck issue.
Right.
And he was supposed to be out for 6 to 9 months, I believe it was. And at the Royal Rumble that year, he surprised the world by coming back at Madison Square Garden I think 3 months before he was scheduled to return.
Probably came back too soon.
Yeah, could have been.
As things would have it. I would never count John Cena out.
Yeah.
But right now, let's face facts. It does not look good.
No, not at all.
All he's going to do is hurt himself, and I think he's still got some miles left in his career.
Mm-hmm. But, I think he's been winding down over the last few years as well. He hasn't been champion in quite a while.
Right.
He was the United States champion, which put some shine back on that belt. And he's since lost that. But, we've seen people wrestle into their 40s, into their 50s even, and been on top for that long as well. John Cena, I think he's 37, 38, maybe 39-ish.
John is 38 years old.
Yeah. Only he knows how much more time he has, but
right.
How much more time do you think he might have?
Well, it's like big league baseball, mm-hmm. Damien. They say they can sign a guy for another 3 years. He's got X number of hits so far.
I'm all choked up there.
Excuse me. Like professional baseball, He's got X number of hits so far, and they figure we can sign him for another 2 or 3 years and expect this much out of him.
Right.
So John Cena may have, maybe not as a main event, but certainly could wind it down in style by maintaining his presence in a WWE ring.
Yeah.
Plus, he's such a great name for the company, but he's loaded. He's doing the Today Show.
Right.
He's doing personal appearances.
Yeah.
The guy's doing everything. And like I said, he is the face of the company today. But I would predict that whoever steps in there and does that job right gets in the ring at WrestleMania as a so-called replacement for Mr. Cena. Be big boots to fill, but also a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Great opportunity.
So let's go back to WrestleMania 3 for a minute. Talked about Hogan, Andre, and that being the marquee matchup. Do you think, and the question we had was, is Dallas going to be enough, or is the name WrestleMania enough to fill that stadium? Because as you said, it has the capacity to outdraw. Was Hogan, Andre the match that sold the 93,000 tickets in WrestleMania 3, or was it the spectacle of the event?
Big part of it, but it was the event itself. And I can tell you quite honestly, that probably wasn't the best match on that card.
Oh, no, there's no doubt it wasn't.
The best match on the card was Savage and Steamboat.
But they didn't sell 93,000 tickets.
No. I kind of figured that as one of the greatest matches in the history of WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Savage is gone, Steamboat's retired for the most part.
Well, but let's not forget, Steamboat would come back and wrestle again at WrestleMania 25 in Houston.
Exactly.
Against Jericho, and a phenomenal matchup as well. One that I was there in person. I know you were too. It was a huge surprise. Not because you didn't think he could do it, but at that stage in his career, Steamboat, he over-delivered.
Steamboat still could do it.
Yeah.
Today. I mean, he's in great shape. If you recall that little tete-a-tete that he had with Mickey Rourke when the wrestler was popular, he was one of the guys that fell on the sword, as they say, and got into the ring with Mickey Rourke and put the guy over big time.
Yep.
But Steamboat can do that. He has that kind of star power.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he certainly has great athletic ability.
Yeah. Yeah, and great genes, too, apparently, I guess. You know, Bo Dallas and Bray Wyatt, I believe.
Right.
Came from, as Buford T. Justice would say in Smokey and the Bandit, came from his loins.
Yes.
Now, Gene,
Buford.
What was your favorite Smokey and the Bandit? 1 or 2? Because 3 doesn't count.
You know,
Burt Reynolds wasn't in 3,
there's a jump ball there between 2 and 3.
Really?
Yeah. 3 kind of, they were milking the cow backwards from the wrong end. And
got a different result. Huh?
Yes, a little different result. But no, I think the first one was, really carry the show and set everything else up. And they probably could have done 5 Smokey and the Bandits.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about the Hall of Fame later, but one of the questions we've received recently, and people want to hear what is actually a very interesting story about one of your moments of, I guess, infamy. SummerSlam 90, was it? The whole promo, you were doing the interview backstage, and the sign fell, and you had some choice words.
Right.
There's an interesting story about that promo, actually, right? Of what, it wasn't live.
Well, no, it was taped. And the tape operator queued it up into 15 or 20 seconds into the tape and says, "We got it right here. It's on machine number 4. All you have to do is pop it in when the time comes."
Yeah.
And the director made the call, and all of a sudden, you heard, "Fuck it." That backdrop came down. I had a perfect intro, and in a flash, it was all over.
Literally.
And of course, Jesse Ventura did such a great job of covering for me. That's a CYA. He buried me. There was an announcer at that time by the name of Tony Schiavone.
Oh, yes.
Who didn't help things either.
Now, they would make a parody of that, I guess you can call it. What was it? It was a SummerSlam. You did a thing in the studio
last year.
Yeah.
Right.
Which was fantastic because it was all vintage with the the whole pre event show and you hosting, and then at the very end there
sign
went
drops.
the sign.
Yeah.
Which here's the challenge though, Gene. I don't know if enough fans had the opportunity to appreciate that as much as a fan like me did, because I still to this day will watch that video, the whole 6 minutes of it, and be like, this is just freaking great with the old graphics, and it's like old school Raw we talked about last time on the podcast.
Yeah, it was
It's just
enjoyable
fun.
to do it too.
Yeah, but why only once? Why didn't that continue? Because you could do that for every pay-per-view. You still work regularly.
We could, but I think it takes the novelty away from it.
Yeah.
If you do it again and again and again.
Yeah.
But to do it once every 5 years, maybe when I'm 80. Which,
So
by the way, I'm looking at my watch here. Not too far away. But we could probably do another pregame, as we say,
Pre-game, yes.
in the business.
Yes. Now, Sean Mooney.
Mm-hmm.
He is a person who obviously is very well remembered. They brought him back for the 1,000th episode of Raw, I think it was, which I popped for huge. Because I'm like, you didn't expect that. I was like, oh, Sean Mooney. And now he's doing news. He's a lead anchor on the news in New York on Channel 9, I believe.
No, he's in Tucson, Arizona.
Oh, is he now?
Yeah.
Oh.
And he is back as a news anchor, weekend anchor.
Yeah.
And he lives there, and he's raising his son as a single parent.
Yeah.
And just kind of loving life.
Yeah.
However, I'm going to give you a little insight. There is a show that's going to be debuting on the WWE Network.
Which I think is $9.99, right?
Right, with Christian and Edge.
Okay.
And that's a tag team that became very renowned from Canada.
Yeah.
But they're going to bring back myself and Sean Mooney for one of those episodes that will be airing in the future.
Fantastic. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's, again, too hot for TV, right?
That is too hot for TV. Don't tell anybody. Keep that under your hat. If that ends up in a dirt sheet, I'm going to be in trouble.
Well, you can guarantee if it ends up in a dirt sheet, you'll be misquoted as well.
Right.
Those journalists out there, if you will. But how was it working with Sean?
Oh, he's great. He's a great kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and talented, good-looking, and boy, he worked his rear end off. Because I know those face-to-face or event centers, as they were called, were just boring as can be. So
we talked about the great Bobby Heenan, and remember every time Heenan would throw to Mooney, or when Monsoon would say, "Let's go to Sean Mooney event center," Heenan would be like, "Who?"
Yeah. I'm going to see Bobby here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
He's on the mend. He's probably not going to talk again.
Right.
But he does have a way of communicating. And I get little emails from him or text messages where he's still got that sense of humor.
Oh, yeah.
Which is great to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, a legend, and sort of interesting how ironic in a bad way it is that one of the best communicators in the wrestling business lost his voice due to the throat cancer. But
I mean, that was a travesty. If you recall, one of the great announcers of all time, Gordon Solie, experienced the same thing.
He did.
He had throat cancer.
He passed from it.
And they removed his larynx.
Yeah. Wow. Fascinating. All right, so you, Gene, are a WWE Hall of Famer.
Correcto mundo.
And coming up in just a few months. Coming up in just a few months, it's the 2016 class, the Hall of Fame class. Right. We know that the official announcement has been made that Sting is going into the Hall of Fame.
And well deserved, by the way. Sting earned every accolade he could get from the WWE, even though he didn't spend a lot of time actively in WWE. Probably a handful of matches.
Mm-hmm. Now, you worked with Sting in WCW.
I did.
And you worked with him in WWE now that he's there. Nobody's ever had a bad thing to say about Sting, at least that I've heard. But what do you think of that 12 years, I believe it was, that he spent between the closure of WCW and actually coming into WWE. The time he went to TNA and sort of went into obscurity due to TNA's
for
lack of
a
exposure.
boatload of money.
Was that the motivator?
Well, I think money motivated Sting most of his life.
Yeah.
Number one, he goes out on the West Coast. So working with WCW, he had to come back to Atlanta or to East Coast location, basically, for work. And he made an awful lot of trips.
Yeah. Do you think
So-
it was a mistake for Sting to have gone to TNA in his long-term career?
I think if he gets $1 million a year and has to work minimal
Yeah.
schedule, if you work for WWE, it's not a minimal schedule.
Right.
You are going to put in your 24/7.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's almost similar to a great friend of ours, Kevin Nash, who publicly says he went to WCW because the money was better, the schedule was lighter, and it was easier. Not easier, but it was better on his family life. And he made a business decision, much like many people did, to make that transition and that change. I guess it's the same thing, huh? Sting did the same
I
thing.
think there are some parallels there. It's a good analogy.
Yeah.
Sting's body at age 55 certainly isn't what it was 20 years ago
right.
at 35.
Yeah.
So I think the least amount of work, the least amount of travel, the most money really makes sense to me.
It's a win-win for
Yeah.
everybody, huh?
Right.
But it all worked out. I mean, he's going into the Hall of Fame
Yeah.
this year. Now, let's say and I know you have to be careful here because you have some influence, but so we know Sting's going into the Hall of Fame this year. If Gene Okerlund were picking the rest of the class of 2016, who would be next in Dallas to go into the Hall of Fame?
Wow. Good question. A lot of deserving talent. Some have always thought highly of it, the British Bulldogs.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
and it's kind of strange that they have not been inducted, presented into the Hall. I think the day will come. But there might be some secondary thinking behind that
Yeah.
on both sides, both the company and the family of the talent,
Right.
or the talent themselves. But Tommy Billingham, whatever. Anyway, the Dynamite Kid is in the tough shape. He's in a wheelchair, and of course, Davey has long left us.
Right.
So that would be. They belong there, but it would be a tough hand to deal.
So your next choice would be the British Bulldogs.
I would have to say that they're
That's
probably,
really interesting.
yeah.
Not a lot of talk about that. Most people are talking about the fact that Demolition's not in it. There's a whole long list of names of people who just for whatever reason have not been inducted into the Hall. Now, the Hall of Fame's already sold out from a ticket sales standpoint in Dallas. So
Always will be.
yeah. But would you have a third name beyond Sting and British Bulldogs in the Mean Gene Hall of Fame or Mean Gene list of Hall of Famers for 2016?
Well, I think there are some people that have been overlooked. I don't know if it was politically
Yeah.
or not, but a couple of names I'm not going to really put myself in a position to get on the hot seat here. We're already in the hot line.
Well, but let's not ignore the fact that the list has been leaked.
Yeah,
The purported list.
There
has been
has
leaked. We don't know if it's real or not, but some of the names on it. JBL, who I think is a
deserving,
excellent choice.
right? Held multiple titles.
Does he get the credit he deserves for... I'm a mark for JBL. I believe, yes, he is a wrestling guy, and I think his gimmick, if you will, which wasn't really a gimmick, it was really him,
Yeah.
was fantastic. When he was running SmackDown, I guess, for the number of years or whatever. Does he get the credit he deserves from his days back as in the APA and even before that with when he teamed up? I think he teamed up with Barry Windham for a time, too. And now being a commentator on Raw every
Right.
Monday night. Does
And
he
doing a
get
very
what he
good job,
deserves?
by the way.
Absolutely.
He's a 180-degree swing from Jerry the King Lawler.
Right? Yeah.
And Jerry Lawler, by the way, I have the utmost respect for. But JBL, great ring veteran, certainly deserving of a shot at the Hall of Fame. As I said, he held multiple titles.
Yeah.
He's worked in various organizations, and I think he's a logical choice
Yeah.
to go in. And since it's going to be in Texas, I would suspect, Damien, that he is going to go in.
Shouldn't anybody who's ever worn a cowboy hat be put in this year?
And boots.
Oh, and boots.
Yeah,
yes,
right.
indeed. All right. So the other, a couple of other names on that list, the Fabulous Freebirds being considered
Well, now the
as well, it
Fabulous
seems.
Freebirds were a big part of the world-class championship wrestling.
Absolutely, at the
And
Sportatorium.
Fritz von Erich. Who did I see last year? Was it Mercer? Bill Mercer,
Yes.
I believe was his name. And that was at the WrestleMania, a function that we had. And he said that the Freebirds were very much deserving of a place in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Buddy Roberts and Gordy,
Terry Bam Bam Gordy?
Bam Bam Gordy,
Yeah.
Terry Gordy. I'm going to say Barry Gordy there for a minute. Have passed.
Yeah.
So we've got Michael P.S. Hayes.
What does
And-
a PS mean?
Huh?
What does a PS mean?
Well, I think it's the same as BS, but a different. No, but yeah,
Pretty sexy.
yeah. He always has said. I've said this. He's got the logical choice to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and he said, "No, you're just trying to push yourself over with me." And I said, "Not so. No. Freebirds would be and should be automatic choice for Texas."
Yeah.
That's going to bring back a lot of history from the
ton.
Sportatorium
A ton of history.
and all of the, that's where they started.
Oh, yeah.
That's where they cut their teeth.
Yeah, and World Class available on the WWE Network. But even when I was growing up, I used to watch it. I didn't realize. I think by the time it was airing in Milwaukee, where I was growing up, it was about 5-10 years old that they were still airing it in syndication. But it didn't matter. It's still
Well,
great wrestling.
they also, by the way, I did the first contract on ESPN television.
They were out. Yes.
And it might have been a half-hour show as opposed to an hour,
Yeah.
which is unheard of in wrestling today,
Yeah.
with 3 hours worth of Raw. But no, the Freebirds would be a logical choice, and I know you didn't just pull that out of the hat. That's something you had thought about before,
Yeah.
and I agree with that choice.
Yeah.
Now you got two Texans. You got JBL, Michael P.S. Hayes, and gosh, I can go down that
But
list.
you know, just like Sting, the Freebirds never wrestled in WWE. I don't think Michael Hayes has ever wrestled in WWE. He's managed and done some stuff, but
Yeah, but no, they did. They did wrestle. They had a short run. It was a little like the Rockers.
oh really?
Yeah, because I think it was about 2 months into their run that they got in trouble. And immediately were dismissed.
Yeah, yeah. Now let's talk about the Freebirds. Talk about Sting. Talk about the British Bulldogs. Is there any consideration for the inductees into the Hall of Fame? Is there any consideration as to how much time, if any, they actually spent in WWE? Because there's a long list of people who never stepped foot in a WWE ring who are in the Hall of Fame.
Okay,
But does that dismiss?
You're from the upper Midwest. You're
Yeah.
from Chicago. Our friend David Hero from Milwaukee.
No, he's not my friend anymore.
The one, the only Crusher.
Yes. The man who made Milwaukee famous.
Indeed, he did. But I think the one and only Crusher should have been in the Hall of Fame a long time ago.
Yeah. And he's still not, is he?
He's still not. But who knows? If we get back to a northern venue for WrestleMania in the next 2 or 3 years, there'd be a good choice.
Yeah.
We want to get him in there before people forget about him.
Right.
Crusher's been gone now for 10 or 12 years.
Yeah.
And you don't want to wait too long that people forget.
Right. Exactly. Talking about John Cena, you know, a lot of people are saying the heir apparent, as we go back to how we started this episode of the Hotline, the heir apparent to Cena's spot, if you will, is Roman Reigns. Do you have any?
We thought that a year and a half ago, too.
Yeah, you may have thought that, but a lot of the fans didn't. They
Right.
pushed Roman Reigns very far away because he was taking Daniel Bryan's spot, if you will. Unfortunately, we see how Daniel Bryan ended up,
Right.
Injured and not participating in in-ring action anymore. But Roman Reigns hasn't been around a ton of time, but he has been around for a number of years in WWE. Is this his year?
This could very well be his year. This would only be speculation
Right. Yes.
on my part. Is he ready for it? I think he is more ready now than he would have been the last time around.
Is anybody ever ready for it? Gene?
Yeah, well, I think there's a certain amount of mental and physical preparation that you have to commit yourself to be able to step into that position, that number one spot.
Right.
And if he were the guy to replace John Cena, wow. And work as hard as John Cena has the last 10 years. He joined the company, I think, in 2000 or 2001. And, I mean, he was a headliner 2 or 3 years into his career.
I think a year into his career.
Like that.
Yeah. So you think Roman Reigns, you wonder if he's ready, but is he the guy?
No, I think he would be ready.
Yeah.
I think he would be ready. Lord knows he comes from great lineage, as they say, with the Rock, the Samoans,
Right.
and everybody out of Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Where you spent a lot of time in
I spent
Allentown.
a lot of time in
A lot of time in
Allentown.
front of the camera in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
We did indeed.
Yeah.
We did indeed. Roman Reigns, I think, as good as any. Damien, I don't know if you'd agree on that, but a lot of likely candidates for that role. So let's see what happens in Dallas, Texas.
Well, but Roman Reigns is the total package. What I mean by that is he's got wrestling ability, which is probably the last thing that matters. Because Hulk Hogan was never the best wrestler in the world.
Woo.
He could wrestle better than he actually did wrestle. Because before he was Hulk Hogan, he was an in-ring technician.
Right.
But John Cena, arguably not the best wrestler in the world. That's the last skill. It's the look.
No, but what a seller! What John Cena could sell a French whore a bean sandwich. About the only way I could put it.
But here's the thing, though. Not enough people, because we haven't had a chance to, can see how great John Cena can wrestle. Because he's had some fantastic wrestling contests. But those are forgotten when they're put behind the veil of John Cena can't wrestle. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And
I don't
a lot
agree
of
with
fans'
that.
minds.
I do not agree with that assessment.
Yeah, nor do I.
John Cena can wrestle.
Absolutely. So Roman Reigns, I think, is the total package. He's got the look.
Is.
He can, as has been said many a time, he could represent the company. He could be the
Great
face
look.
of the company. Yeah,
Great look.
the women and children love him, just
They
like
do.
you, Gene.
Well, children not so much with me. The women I'll take.
Fair enough. Well, Gene, we're out of time for this week.
Well, you know what? The reaction we've got to the first couple of shows that we've done, Damien, I want to thank you for all of the hard work you put into producing the show.
Well, I'm only here because you are, Gene, and
Wow.
good. I'm only here because you are, Gene. I mean, the legendary Mean Gene Okerlund and the Hotline, the podcast. How could you not want it? In fact, coming up, our next episode, we've got some guests lined up.
And I'm looking forward to that. We've got a lot of guests lined up
Absolutely.
that we're going to be talking with in the weeks and months to come.
Yeah.
But for right now, I think this was a very, very good discussion
Absolutely.
that kind of intrigues me because we do get a chance to reach in the hip pocket and pull out the magical kerchief and see what unfolds.
Is that like the magic carpet ride? Anything is it similar?
Exactly. That would be a Steppenwolf thing.
Well, we want to make sure all of you check out all of the other great product available here on the PWR Now Network, including PWR Reaction, which is live every Monday night after Raw, live on Wednesdays after NXT, and live on pay-per-view Sundays, WWE pay-per-view Sundays right after the event as well. Coming soon will be The Head podcast with Al Snow. And as we announced on Primetime this past week, Gene, we have a lovely lady joining us here on the PWR Now Podcast Network. ODB, Jess Dalton, is going to be producing and hosting her own podcast here on this network very soon.
Well, you know what? I like the growth of the network thus far, and that just adds to it.
It absolutely does.
The beauty and the beast.
Oh, she is both, actually. But the headliner, the main event, WWE Hall of Famer, Mean Gene Okerlund. Always great talking to you, Gene, and I can't wait until our next episode, which...
we'll see if these prognostications come to life.
Oh, they always do.
Yeah. Damian, thank you, sir.
Mean Gene Okerlund and Damian Nelson signing off here for the Hotline on the PWR Now Network. Thanks for joining us, folks.
Thanks for joining us on the Hotline. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast right here on iTunes so you never miss an episode. You can also download new episodes online at pwrshow.com, where you can also find the best pro wrestling coverage in the world today from Damian Nelson and David Harrow. Until next time, this is the Hotline Podcast, signing off.